Hi there friends, and welcome back to Soul Valley. Today I'm going to continue expanding the recycling center. But before I jump into that, at the moment, I've been trading pumpkins with my villager here, and as you can see, he's currently sold out, and I also traded with him for some glistering melons so that I could make some potions of healing, and I healed him up. You may remember his health was all the way down to a half a heart, and he is now healed up. But I just learned something that in all my time of playing Minecraft I never knew before, that villagers can go up ladders, but they can't go down. So he is currently trapped up here. I'm going to do that. There we go. I think that falling that short distance should be fine. I don't think he'll get hurt. He lost 2 hearts. That'll be okay. He'll recover from that. And then what I'm going to do to make sure that doesn't happen again, I'm going to put that there. Really quick, I just want to interrupt the video to acknowledge the audio quality of this episode is a little lower than normal. I don't know how, but my OBS audio filter settings got kind of messed up. I don't know what happened, and I didn't realize it until I was in the editing process, and at that point it was too late. I'd already recorded all the audio, so I apologize for that, but I am aware of the issue, and between this episode and the next episode, I will put effort into making sure that the audio quality is improved for the next episode. So again, just wanted to acknowledge and apologize if the audio quality is not as good as normal for this episode. And I also realized that I have committed a grave injustice. With every other villager that I've built a house for in this world, I put them in a house, I give them a name, I give them some lore, but with these two, I just kind of said, oh, and these are the guys I trade pumpkins with, and dropped them in the house here. And they didn't really get a story, they didn't really get any background, names, lore, anything like that. And considering that these are currently my primary source of emeralds, that just doesn't seem fair. So these guys need some lore. So here we have Pete and Gordon. And Pete and Gordon tend to the wheat fields out here. They've been farming these lands for years. Their families have farmed these lands. They know these wheat fields better than anyone else, and they also just deal in, agriculture in general, which is why I can give them pumpkins and they will give me emeralds. The reason I want all these emeralds is because I need to get more mending books. Currently I've got 3. I need to get quite a few mending books, and they cost 16 each. And then I also need to get some XP because I need to enchant a bunch of weapons and tools and equipment with mending. And I also need to recreate my Silk Touch pickaxe because I lost that in the last episode. And after some trading with the villagers, I now have a bunch of mending books, and then I also went ahead and made a book where I combine Silk Touch, Efficiency 5, Unbreaking 3, and Mending that I can apply to this brand new diamond pickaxe. And then for my fortune pickaxe, it doesn't have any other enchantments, so I also combined some books together, so I've got Efficiency 5, Unbreaking 3, and Mending that I can apply to that. But the problem now is it is pretty expensive to add these enchantments, and I currently only have 3 levels left after combining all those books. However, I've been keeping a secret from you all the way back since episode 2, and it's time that I confess. In episode 2, when I was terraforming this cliff and was running around lighting up the area to mob-proof the area, within this cave behind me, I made a bit of a discovery. As I was lighting up the interior of this cave, over here, let's see if I can get in, I found a zombie spawner. But not just that. If I run back this way, I found a second zombie spawner. Those are 2 zombie spawners side by side, and the reason I didn't mention it was because 1, I didn't have soul sand at that time because I hadn't been to the nether, so I wasn't able to really make a super effective XP farm, and 2, all the way back in episode 2, I didn't really have a need for an XP farm, but now I've got soul sand and I actually need the XP. So I think it is about time that I get these boys operational. I already got everything set up. So I got all the water in place and all the tunnels and everything the way that it needs to be so that when the zombies spawn, let's see, that goes right there. And my brightness is kind of low. Let me hop back to safety and I will turn up the brightness. Okay, and now with the brightness a little higher, the zombies will spawn, they will end up in this bubble column, and then let's run over here and put the bubble column in this one. That goes right there. So now that will take them up, and then I just need to get rid of those torches, but I am afraid because as soon as I do, zombies will spawn. So that's gone. I'm gonna go ahead and close that door, and then let's run over here and do the same thing. All right, and so that brings them all the way down so that they're 1 or 2 hit kills with my bare hands. And I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to actually go into free cam and do an x-ray so that you can see what's going on here. So over here, we've got this bubble column. It shoots all the way up. Oop. And then there's a water, then there's a stream that funnels them to there. And then same over here. We've got, what are you doing being stuck right there? We've got a bubble column here, so this bubble column shoots them up, and sometimes they do get a little stuck right here. I might need to see if I could troubleshoot that, but then they fall here, and it's the exact number of blocks needed to get them down to 1 hit kills, or at least 1 or 2 hit kills. If I had a sword with sweeping edge, then I could easily take a bunch out at once, and everything is ending up in this chest. For now, I'm going to get my XP so that I could just get mending put on all the things that I need mending. And a short time later, we now have all of our armor enchanted with mending, and I went ahead and got it all fully repaired up. We've also got Fortuna is now enchanted with efficiency, unbreaking, and mending. We have 3 silky since my last pickaxe was 2 silky, and it is now gone. We've got 3 silky. Then I named my shovel Dig Bigsley. There's no inspiration for that. It popped in my mind and I thought it was funny. And then Rick Axley. I haven't yet named my sword because I'm still going to have to put a lot more enchantments on it before this is, you know, the almighty powerful sword that it has the potential to be. So it'll get a name someday. But for now, we've got Rick Axley, Dig Bigsley, 3 Silky, and Fortuna. But with that, I also got quite a good bit of loot in here. We got full chainmail armor now from just all the zombies that were slaughtered here today. And then I don't want to leave this as just kind of a unfinished cave. I think I want to actually put some work into making this kind of like a nice area. I'm not going to make it a huge build. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I'm at least going to open it up a little bit. And instead of just looking like a cave, I want it to actually look like, you know, a room that is intentional and, you know, worth being in. And as the sun sets, let's go ahead and take a look at the newly redesigned zombie spawner cave. So we take a step in, and I decided to keep kind of that cave-like appearance, and I used blocks that kind of blend in well with the stone. So we've got like pale moss and stone bricks, mossy cobblestone, and then I sprinkled in some moss. Just kind of wanted to keep it looking kind of like a cave. And then I used some waterlogged stairs to kind of make it look like some water flowing through the cave. The roof has things hanging from it, so the pale hanging moss, hanging roots, glowberries. And then I put up some tinted glass so that I can still see the spawners while I'm standing here. And then this is where the zombies fall. On the floor, I decided to use chiseled bookshelves just because I thought that was kind of a nice texture for a floor. And this kind of indicates the range where zombies will spawn. So as long as I'm in here, both spawners will be activated. If I step outside this way, then you can see that spawner turns off. And then if I step out this way, then that spawner over there turns off. This isn't an exact perfect radius, but I also kind of wanted to keep it kind of symmetrical. So this is roughly the radius. And as of right now, there's some entity cramming going on, so zombies are dying as they fill this in. I know that zombie spawner XP farms are not the most efficient XP farm currently in the system, and there are more efficient farms now available. But the old school Minecraft player in me would not allow me to pass up the opportunity to create a dual spawner XP farm. And then I put a little trapdoor here. If we step down to the bottom, I added an item filter. So this will filter out all of the rotten flesh and then put it into this dropper here and then just shoot it down into lava, just because I don't really feel like keeping all the rotten flesh. And then I also made this little trash can here that hooks up to that same hopper. So anything I put in here will end up going into that hopper and then get blasted down into the lava down here. So let's say that there was some leather armor in here that I didn't want. I could just toss it in here. Anything that I toss in here gets dispatched into the lava. And I realized that I forgot about my unbreaking and efficiency hoe. I forgot to add mending to that, which I think it's in my ender chest, but I don't even have any mending books on me, so I'll have to get another mending book and add that on at some point soon, but I'll worry about that later. For right now, I'm really happy with how this turned out, especially considering this was not even on my agenda to really put that much effort into. This was just a little side project I wanted to work on in this episode, and I think it turned out really good. I'm really happy with it, but now it's time to jump into the main focus of this episode. And today, we are expanding the Recycling Center. And the first addition that we are going to be adding is going to be an automated iron farm, which is something that I've been thinking about a lot and trying to figure out what the best approach is going to be. Because as many people are aware, one of my goals with this, since the theme is Solarpunk, is I'm trying to make everything kind of ethical and sustainable and being kind of strategic with how I do things. And I think that this area right here is where I'm going to build the iron farm. I've got some plans in mind, but the first thing I'm going to do is a little bit of a terraform. I mentioned when I first kind of terraformed this area that it was just kind of a preliminary terraform and that I still had more work that I planned on doing. So that's going to be the next thing that I do right now, is start a terraforming project. Alright, and with the shadow of our eerie tree being cast upon the wall, this terraform is mostly complete. So my goal with this was to kind of utilize the existing landscape that kind of was here before I showed up. It kind of was cut into the hillside a little bit, and I just kind of exaggerated that a little bit more. So if you remember, there was kind of this little inlet right here, and I just really dug out a huge circle kind of radius here and put up this kind of brick wall meant to look kind of like a retaining wall. And it is kind of meant to look man-made. That was my goal with this. So this is, you know, a man-made retaining wall. And so the iron farm is going to go right in the middle here. And you may be wondering why the entire ground here is dirt paths. And the reason for that is because I'm going to be doing a classic iron golem iron farm, which we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But for now, I just needed to make sure that this area was spawn-proof so that I can have one concentrated area where the iron golems can spawn and make sure that they don't spawn where I don't want them to spawn. So the next step, now that I've got this area kind of ready to go, is it is now time to actually build the iron farm. And behind me, you can now see the completed iron golem recycling plant. I went ahead and built this off camera because a lot of redstone went into this and there was a lot of trial and error, which doesn't make for great content. And as you'll hear many Minecraft YouTubers say, it's never a good idea to do redstone on camera. So I went ahead and did all the redstone off camera. My main goal with this was to make this an ethical iron golem recycling farm. And that resulted in this being way more complicated than it needed to be, considering it's not the most productive iron farm that has ever been made. What exactly do I mean by ethical? Well, to start, let's talk about what I consider to be unethical about traditional iron golem farms and how I address these concerns. And I know I'm going to get comments about this, so I just want to bring it up ahead of time. I do note that it's possible to make an iron golem farm without panicking the villagers. If you have 5 or more, then they will gossip and that will spawn iron golems. But I did try this out in a creative world. I tried multiple variations and they just do not create enough iron golems. I was getting like 1 or 2 iron golems a day. And unfortunately, that's just not enough to make it worth the while. So this does involve the mechanic that makes the villagers panic, which I know is not the most ethical approach, which is why I've got a lot of redstone in this and also going to sprinkle in some lore. So you're going to have to use your imagination just a little bit as I explain what makes this farm ethical. My first ethical concern was around iron golems, and is it ethical to kill them? And this is where we're going to sprinkle in some fresh lore and have to use a little bit of imagination. So in this world, iron golems are not living, breathing creatures. They don't feel pain, they don't suffer, they don't have emotions. They're just robots that are built in this world to help. And usually they're brought in to help with defense and protection of the villagers and the people who brought them into the world. And since they're just robots, they don't feel pain. This is not an iron golem killing farm. This is just a recycling plant. They just recycle the old iron golem robots into their raw materials that can be used for other purposes, whether that be to craft new iron golems or if we need to make something else out of the iron. So we're not killing the iron golems, we're just recycling robots for their parts. My second ethical concern is that in traditional iron golem farms, the villagers can't sleep in peace. They have a hostile mob staring right at them while they're trying to sleep, and that's just not a peaceful night's sleep. No one wants to live like that. So for this build, I used a daylight detector, and as soon as nighttime rolls around, the pillager gets sent to his own private quarters, and a staircase pops up that allows the villagers to go to their own beds and sleep in peace. And then in the morning, when the daylight detector detects that it's daytime, the trapdoor opens, the stairs go away, and the villagers can take their time, enjoy their morning routine, maybe have some breakfast and a cup of coffee, and then when they're ready, their pathfinding will make them automatically pathfind towards their workstations, and since I used a trapdoor, they'll fall down into that water source below, and that will guide them out to their work area, where they can begin recycling iron golems. And then my third concern, which was perhaps the most complex to address, is in a traditional iron golem farm, the villagers spend all day in a panic. And that's no way to live life. It doesn't seem very ethical to force villagers to live their entire lives in a panic. So for this is another one where it's a combination of redstone and lore. So we are still going to have to use our imaginations a little bit. For this build, I used a pillager whose crossbow is broken. And for the sake of lore, in this world, we're going to say that pillagers are not humans, unlike villagers. And I know this because the villagers go to sleep at night, and pillagers do not. If I were to put a bed next to a pillager, he wouldn't go to sleep. So in this world, we're going to say that the pillagers are actually androids. And we don't know where they come from, we don't know why they're here, we don't know why they're so angry, but we have discovered that it is possible, under certain circumstances, to reprogram these androids so that they're not so hostile. And that's exactly what's happened with this pillager. He has been reprogrammed, he's no longer hostile, he doesn't pose a threat to me or the villagers, he just minds his own business, and he's actually taken up a job at the recycling center as the manager of the iron recycling plant. And what that means is when he shows up, the villagers know that they have to get to work. But just like any job, no one wants a micromanager breathing down their neck all day telling them to work. These villagers would like to have some peace throughout their shift, and therefore the manager only shows up when it's time to get to work. So the way that I program this is there are skulk sensors that will detect as soon as an iron golem spawns and starts taking damage. And that skulk sensor will then send a redstone signal to the rail that will send the manager back to his office so that the villagers don't have to worry about the manager breathing down their neck. And then once the iron golem is finished processing, it starts a 30-second timer, and I kind of made a variation of an etho hopper clock to just add that 30-second delay into the redstone signal. And the reason I went with 30 seconds is because villagers will not attempt to spawn an iron golem if they have detected one in the last 30 seconds. So even if the manager was there watching them, they wouldn't be able to spawn an iron golem anyway for 30 seconds. Therefore, the manager won't even come out until 30 seconds have passed after the iron golem is gone. And then after those 30 seconds, the manager comes back out and tells them that it's time to get to work and process another iron golem. Then as soon as a new iron golem spawns, he goes away again. So with this system, the villagers don't have to spend their entire day being watched by a manager. He just pops out every now and again, tells them that it's time to get to work. An iron golem shows up, and then the manager goes away again. So the villagers get to spend most of their day in peace, and for the sake of lore, and by using our imaginations, we're gonna say these villagers are not panicking. They're just working hard because they want to impress their manager who's watching them. And in the middle of filming all this, I almost lost my, didn't mean to do that. I almost lost my pillager here because this wandering trader showed up, and his llamas started shooting at the pillager and got him all the way down to 2.5 hearts. So that was a close call to almost losing my pillager. But while he's here, I also noticed that he is selling black ink, which, and I should be wearing my armor. Up to this point, the only way that I've been able to get black ink is to hang out around ocean monuments and wait for guardians to kill squids because I am not killing friendly creatures. Therefore, it's been difficult for me to get black ink. So while I've got this opportunity, I just want to grab some black ink. But now that I've done that, I've got some black ink. You're trapped down there. I need to get these llamas relocated. So for now, I've got the llamas tied up over there so that I don't have to worry about them hurting my pillager here. I need to figure out a way to make sure that this area and this area are secure so that if wandering traders show up again, they can't harm my pillager. But at least he survived this. That was a close call. So we now have a functional iron farm. The only problem is this thing is ugly. It does not look good at all. My main concern initially was just making sure it was functional, getting the redstone working, making sure that it was spawning iron golems and getting the iron from it. I did not put any effort into the aesthetics, and I just used stone bricks because I had a bunch left over from when I built this wall. So now, the next thing I need to do is try my best to make this pile of rocks look good. So I'm gonna hop into a time lapse now while I convert this into a much nicer house. And now the iron farm is completely decorated, but unfortunately we did have one casualty. The manager, the pillager in the rail cart, due to my own neglect, smothered in a wall. He was low on health from the llamas that were spitting on him earlier. I just wasn't paying close enough attention as I was renovating his office. The rail sent him into a wall and he suffocated. Now I need to get this guy all situated. Oh, you weren't supposed to fall there. Go this way. Go this way. Go this way. There we go. Lock that. Alright. I made sure that this area is now completely safe from llamas, so he will not be attacked again. He's got his own little office in here, and he can make his way over to here safely without being killed. We now have a new manager on duty. I am so sorry to the first manager. I really failed him. I didn't want him to die, and I feel terrible about it. And now let's take a look at the house now that it has been kind of decorated to look nice rather than just a stack of stone bricks. And you may or may not have picked up from previous builds that I'm a big fan of kind of the cyan or teal or turquoise color scheme. So I went with some cyan concrete. And one of the things that I don't love about concrete in this game is how flat the color is. Like, just using concrete in and of itself, it's a very flat color, so I feel like it needs a lot of kind of accents around it to stand out. I put spruce signs and fences, things like that. And then I use this brown glazed terracotta because I think it ties together really well with a bunch of different colors. So for example, you can see that it really goes well with the cyan, but it also goes well with the dark oak and the jungle. So that's kind of the color scheme that I went with. We've got the dark oak, we've got dark oak stairs and slabs, planks, but then also the dark oak logs. Then we've got jungle wood, and I sprinkled in some mud bricks just for some kind of texturing. But I think that ties together really well with the cyan color scheme. And out front here, I was trying to come up with something because if we, I'm going to hop into cheater cam here. This is kind of where all the redstone is, and trying to come up with something that kind of concealed the redstone while still allowing it to be functional was kind of difficult. I wanted some kind of deck or something, but this is what I ended up finding that made sure that the redstone still stayed functional and looked nice as well. They got a little wheat farm on the side of the house here, and over here I did not make an easy way to get in there, so I'm gonna have to figure out, maybe break out one of these glass blocks or something. Yeah, we'll do that for now. So if we come in here, this is the manager's quarters, and we're just going to pretend this is kind of like a computer screen. So, you know, since I mentioned he is an android, he doesn't need sleep. During his downtime, he just browses the computer. That's how he relaxes and unwinds and gains knowledge of the world, things like that. So when he's not out there enforcing the workplace, then he comes in here and relaxes. So this is kind of his relaxation space. If we come over this way, this is the villagers' workspace now. We've got their workstations down there, and they're not currently spawning a iron golem because I skipped the night last night and I don't think they slept, and if they have not slept, then they won't spawn a golem. But this is their workspace where they can oversee the iron plant, and I think this is really cool. If we go down here, I didn't decorate the underground, but I do have some item sorters here. So one side sorts the iron poppies into this composter, which I'm going to need a better way. I put this so that iron golems wouldn't spawn here, but we've got 7 bone meal, and then I put an auto crafter to craft blocks of iron just to kind of save space. So it sorts the iron ingots this way, puts them in the auto crafter, and then sends a signal, and some of the signal is kind of underground here. I hid it just so that it looked a little nicer. But once this fills up with 9 iron ingots, it crafts an iron block, and we already have 44 iron blocks just in the time that I've been kind of building this, and it has taken me a few in-game days. And oh, that's my last piece of bread. So it's been operational for a pretty long while now as I've kind of built and decorated and gone through all this work. So I would say that's pretty efficient. 44 blocks of iron in the time that it's been running. And then shortly here, once the game fully registers that it's nighttime, these stairs will pop up so these guys can go to bed. But let's take a look at the back side of the building, which I did not decorate nearly as thoroughly as the front side, but just more of this glazed terracotta, and it's the brown glazed terracotta with more cyan, stone, dark oak, jungle wood, and then on this side, even more. If we step inside, I used a little bit of banners and kind of brown and cyan to decorate the inside. They've got a little table here. Oh, and there goes the stairs. They got a little table here, so in the morning they can enjoy a nice breakfast before going to work. I used the soul lanterns because I feel like it kind of ties in well with the cyan color scheme. But I think this turned out really well. All the villagers are now in bed, so tomorrow morning they will get back to work, spawning iron golems and enabling the recycling plant to function as intended. And there he goes. The villagers are now showing up to the job site. And now, with the villagers in their workstations, an iron golem should be spawning soon. Oh, perfect. There's one right there. He's about to take some damage. The manager's gonna retreat to his office. Everything is working as intended. So, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I don't know that this is, you know, in the real world, what an actual iron recycling plant would look like. This looks more like just a house, but as I've mentioned in a previous episode, this is a family business, and the people who work here also live here and take pride in that. So this is kind of a situation where they both live and work in the same place. So yeah, it kind of looks like a house, but it's also a workplace. And there are some things that I haven't decided if I love. I might make some changes, and I need to decorate the outer area as well. But at the time of recording this, it is currently Friday afternoon, September 12th, and I was hoping that this video would already be published online, uploaded to YouTube today, and I still have a lot of editing to do, so I think I'm going to wrap the video up here, and we'll save all of the decorating and the landscaping for the next episode, because it's going to be quite a challenge to landscape this and make sure that I also keep it spawn-proof, so that'll be a fun challenge. But now I need to wrap this up and get to editing, and I'm probably just going to grind away, spend the weekend editing so that I can get this video uploaded as quickly as possible. So if you have any thoughts on how I can make this look better, please let me know. Like I said, I like it. I like the color scheme, but I feel like it's still not perfect, and then especially this area surrounding it needs some good landscaping. Thank you, as always, to everyone who took the time to watch this video today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I certainly had a lot of fun coming up with the redstone and coming up with some lore for this iron recycling center. But these villagers and the manager still need a name, and rather than me naming them myself, I would love to take some names from the comments left on this video, so if you have any ideas for a name for any of the villagers or the manager, please let me know, and I will hopefully have some names for these guys for the next episode. Please consider liking, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And other than that, I will see you all in the next episode. Thanks again, everybody. See you later.